The first scream was swallowed by static. Then came the light, white, searing, absolute. 7 million souls gone in a heartbeat. Their final moments broadcast across every channel, every screen, every system. At first, humanity didn't believe it. The Threxians were supposed to be diplomats, not executioners. The summit had been billed as a galactic peace exhibition, streamed live from the orbiting station Seraphim's Gate. But the Threxian Prime region had smiled, those needle-thin lips stretching into something almost human, and said, "Observe the fragility of your species." Then the beam fired. The world stopped spinning for exactly 12 seconds. And then the screaming began, not from those who died, but from those left behind. Captain Lyra Mendez watched the replay for the 12th time, jaw locked, fingers trembling around a chipped mug of black coffee. She wasn't sure which burned more, the caffeine or the helplessness. The broadcast still played in every public square, every household, looping endlessly like a wound that refused to clot. The Threxians had made sure of that. They wanted humanity to remember. Lyra turned off the screen. "They wanted fear," she muttered. "They're to get fury." The briefing room in EarthGov Command smelled like metal and exhaustion. Engineers, generals, diplomats. Everyone was talking at once. Everyone except Dr. Raj Patel, who sat cross-legged on the floor beside a cluster of alien debris salvaged from Seraphim's Gate. "Dr. Patel," Lyra said, stepping over the scattered parts, "please tell me you're not meditating in the middle of a war meeting." "Thinking," Raj replied, without looking up. "Meditation has breathing. Thinking has caffeine." He lifted a shattered Threxian data crystal and peered through it, eyes bright with curiosity instead of grief. They broadcasted through a quantum-entangled lattice. Real-time interstellar transmission. Magnificent technology, if it weren't evil. Lyra crossed her arms. "Can we use it?" A slow grin spread across his face. "With duct tape, stolen AI cores, and about 3 days without sleep, probably." "Good," Lyra said, "because I want that same network streaming their destruction." Across the room, Zoe Carter raised an eyebrow. She was humanity's youngest communications analyst, and to some, its strangest, a poet in a world of soldiers. Her voice carried the kind of calm that came from staring into chaos too long. "You can't out-broadcast a species that controls half the galaxy's signals," Zoe said, "but you can hijack their narrative." She tapped her wrist console, pulling up a visual of a meme storm, billions of images, jokes, and edits flooding alien communication hubs. "Humor travels faster than light, Captain. We weaponize irony." Lyra blinked. "You're serious." "Humor," Zoe said, "is how humans stay sane. It's our contagion." Then came the click-click-click of combat boots. Jinx O'Malley swaggered in, all grin and grease-stained jacket, chewing on what looked suspiciously like a wire. "I heard you're forming a suicide team." Jinx said, "Count me in." Lyra groaned. "You were banned from the defense net for turning the lunar surveillance grid into a dating app." "Correction," Jinx said, leaning against the wall. "It was an art installation. Also, it worked. 3 couples married." Raj sighed, "And 2 satellites divorced." Zoe smirked. "Perfect. We have our wild card." Lyra rubbed her temples. "I don't even know what our mission is yet." Jinx tossed a cracked datapad onto the table. "Sure you do. Payback." By the next sunrise, the Planetary Unity Council was convened. Humanity had never agreed on anything so fast. Not during the Ice Wars, not during the AI uprisings, not even about pineapple on pizza. President Aisharin stood before a sea of faces. Her voice carried on every surviving network. "They called us fragile," she said. "They mistook compassion for weakness. Today we answer, not as nations, but as one species. The Threxians broadcast our pain. We will broadcast our defiance." Cheers erupted from every continent. Somewhere above the noise, a hacker flooded the Threxian social feeds with the image of Earth rising over the ruins of Seraphim's Gate. The caption read, "Transmission received. In orbit." The team gathered aboard the Dauntless, an old mining vessel retooled for stealth missions. The ship creaked like a tired soldier but flew like a dare. Raj oversaw the engine room, surrounded by glowing cables and improvised parts. "You know," he said, "if we survive this, someone should study us. Humanity's talent for making functional disasters is unmatched." "Don't jinx it," Zoe said. "Too late." Jinx called from the cockpit. Names already taken. Lyra stood at the viewport, watching the curve of Earth fade into the black. Her reflection looked older than she remembered. 7 million gone, she murmured. "We owe them more than revenge. We owe them proof that we're still here." Zoe nodded softly. "We'll make them remember our faces." Hours later, the Dauntless drifted in the shadow of a dead satellite cluster, the remnants of the original Phyrexian broadcast relay. Raj connected his jury-rigged device, hand steady despite the tremor in his voice. "If this works," he said, "we'll have access to their communication lattice. If it doesn't, it will," Lyra said. "We don't have room for if." Zoe whispered, "Everything humanity's ever done started with if." "Fair," Lyra admitted. The lights flickered. Systems hummed. Then Jinx hooped. "We're in. The Phyrexian security system just asked me to reset my password." Raj grinned. "You didn't." "Oh, I absolutely did. Password. Revenge 123. Zoe burst out laughing. Even Lyra cracked a smile. For a moment, the weight lifted, grief and fury replaced by something fierce and human. Then, through the flicker of stolen data streams, the Phyrexian Prime region appeared again, his face cold and angular. "You persist," he said, voice dripping with disdain. "Your species clings to existence like mold to stone." Lyra leaned toward the console. "Then consider us toxic." She cut the transmission. Silence filled the ship. Outside, the stars burned indifferent, ancient witnesses to yet another war. Raj looked up. "We can turn their lattice against them. Make every broadcast they send echo our message instead." "And what message is that?" Zoe asked. Lyra met her gaze. "That humanity doesn't vanish quietly. Far below, Earth's cities glowed like embers, billions of lives united not by fear but fury. Across the networks, the first coordinated signal rose, a single defiant pulse of light, repeated across continents. The same pulse that would soon reach the stars. They thought the broadcast would break us. Instead, it gave us something worth fighting for. The Dauntless smelled like ozone, coffee, and bad decisions. It wasn't built for war. Its hull still carried mining logos half burned off, but had become humanity's most important ship. The crew called it the world's most expensive middle finger. For the first time since the massacre, Captain Lyra Mendez felt something close to momentum. The Phyrexians had started this war with spectacle. Humanity would answer with subversion. "Report," she said, stepping into the dim-lit command bay. Dr. Raj Patel didn't look up from the mess of wires that now passed for the ship's communications hub. His hair stood in uneven spikes, the product of 3 days without rest. "We've linked our transmission taps to the Phyrexian lattice. Half their civilian feeds now run through our filters." "Meaning?" Lyra asked. "Meaning," Raj said, "they're about to watch a cat chase a laser pointer for 26 hours. Zoe Carter grinned from her console. "Phase 1. Confuse them. Phase 2. Educate them on the emotional power of internet culture." Lyra folded her arms. "We're fighting a war with memes." Zoe's tone turned solemn. "Humor is our camouflage. They'll never expect an army that laughs in the face of extinction." From the cockpit, Jinx O'Malley chimed in. "Also, the cat video is encrypted with a data virus that'll fry their fleet's targeting software. But mostly, yes, memes." The first volley of humanity's counterattack wasn't a weapon. It was a broadcast. Every Phyrexian ship, every colony, every outpost suddenly displayed the same feed, an endless loop of human laughter, music, and chaos. To the Phyrexians, beings of strict order, it was pure madness. Across the galaxy, systems glitched. Fleet AIs reported emotional contamination. Commanders argued with their own machines. By the time they realized it wasn't just a prank, it was too late. The virus had embedded itself inside the Phyrexian coordination network. Raj's hands trembled as he monitored the data stream. It's working. Their ships are desynchronizing. AI cores rejecting command signals. Jinx leaned back with a grin. You'd think an empire that conquered 12 species would have invented a firewall. They did, Raj replied, but required rational thinking to maintain. We broke that first. Zoe laughed softly. We're the universe's most dangerous, irrational creatures. A holographic projection lit up in the command bay. The Threxian fleet, hundreds of warships now turning on each other in chaotic patterns. The virus, born from Raj's improvisation and Jinx's recklessness, made their targeting systems interpret friendly signals as hostiles. It was working. But victory, Lyra knew, never came clean. They'll adapt, she said. They're methodical, predictable. Once they isolate the interference, they'll purge it. Then we keep feeding the chaos, Zoe said. We got thousands of creatives on Earth crafting new subroutines disguised as art, music, cooking shows. Every algorithm carries a payload. Raj exhaled, admiration creeping into his voice. Only humans could weaponize creativity. Jinx twirled a wrench. Or boredom. Half of Earth's greatest invention started because someone got tired of waiting for a loading bar. Days bled together in the endless hum of the ship. Humanity's scattered forces rallied behind the signal of the Dauntless, improvising, adapting, creating. Each new broadcast carried defiance through humor, poetry, and sabotage. But fatigue crept in. The crew slept in shifts, ate ration bars that tasted like punishment, and watched the casualty reports climb. The Threxians had retaliated across the outer colonies, burning settlements that hadn't gone silent fast enough. One night, Lyra found Zoe in the observation dome, staring at the streaks of wreckage drifting across the stars. "Can't sleep?" Lyra asked. "Can't dream," Zoe said softly. "I used to write poems about peace. Now I'm writing code that kills." Lyra's voice was gentle. "We're not killers, Zoe. We're survivors." Sometimes the line blurs. Zoe turned, eyes bright with quiet fire. "If we win, I'll write about that line. Maybe that's how we make peace, with memory." Lyra nodded. "Just make sure we live long enough for you to finish the poem." By the 7th day, the Threxians had lost 2 armadas and 1 communications core. Their propaganda feeds, once filled with images of dominance, now glitched between human pop songs and endless loops of laughter. President Wren's voice echoed over secure comms. "Your team's operation has turned the tide." But reports indicate the Threxians are massing for a counterstrike. They'll come for the source of the interference. Lyra smirked. "Let them try." She didn't tell the president that the dauntless shields barely held together with duct tape and optimism. The attack came sooner than expected. 3 Threxian cruisers dropped out of hyperspace, weapons locked. The Dauntless shook under the first barrage. Alarms howled like wounded things. Shields at 30%. Raj shouted, "We can't take another hit." Jinx's fingers flew across the console. "We've got 1 ace left. I built a feedback loop in their signal interceptors. If I bounce their targeting pings through our relay, they'll—" "Speak English, O'Malley." Lyra barked. "They'll shoot themselves." Lyra grinned. "Do it." The Dauntless spun hard, engines screaming. Energy pulses traced arcs of light across the void. Jinx's gambit worked. The Threxian cruisers locked onto their own reflections, blasting each other into molten debris. As silence returned, Raj laughed, a sound too close to disbelief. "You just tricked an interstellar empire with mirror logic." Classic human move. Jinx said, breathless, "We survived by being too stupid for the universe to predict." Zoe exhaled a shaky laugh. "We're alive because chaos likes us." The victory was small but symbolic. Across the solar system, Earth's fragmented fleets rallied behind the signal from the Dauntless. Humanity had done the impossible. They had forced an empire of precision to fight itself. Lyra recorded the transmission herself, her voice calm but edged with steel. "To any species still watching, this is Captain Lyra Mendez of the human vessel Dauntless. The Threxians thought they could end us in a broadcast. Instead, we turned their frequency into our battlefield. If you can hear this, know one thing. Humanity adapts. We endure. And we remember. Later, In the dim quiet of the mess hall, the crew sat in silence. Outside, wreckage drifted like glittering ash. Raj leaned back, exhaustion etched deep into his face. You realize we've just painted a target the size of Jupiter on our backs. Zoe nodded. Then we'll give them a show worth aiming at. Jinx raised her ration cup. To the most annoying species in the galaxy. Lyra lifted hers in return. To the ones who laugh while burning. They drank. The ship drifted onward, carrying the spark of a planet that refused to die. Far away, deep in the Phyrexian command nexus, technicians scrambled to contain the chaos. Fleet AIs malfunctioned. Power grids failed. And through every channel, one human phrase repeated endlessly. Transmission received. The Dauntless drifted through the silent debris of the last Phyrexian battle group. Shattered hulls floated like tombstones against the pale light of a nearby star. For a moment, it almost looked peaceful. Captain Lyra Mendez stood at the viewport, arms folded, gaze unblinking. "Report," she said. Her voice carried the sharpness of someone who refused to rest until the war was over. Dr. Raj Patel didn't look up from his console. "Telemetry from our long-range scans confirms it. The Phyrexian fleet is retreating from the outer sectors." Zoe Carter, seated beside him, frowned. "Retreating or regrouping?" Raj hesitated. "That's the part that worries me." The data flickered across the hollow display. A storm of energy readings, too concentrated, too precise. The Phyrexians weren't retreating. They were converging. Jinx O'Malley, half buried under a maintenance panel, grunted. "I know that pattern. That's no withdrawal. That's stage prep." Lyra turned. "Stage prep?" "Yeah," Jinx said, pulling herself out, face streaked with grease. "You ever see a fireworks show before the finale? They're lighting fuses." Raj tapped the display, magnifying the data stream. The readings formed an ominous lattice around a single star. "They're constructing something enormous, drawing power from the sun itself." Zoe's voice barely rose above a whisper. "A star-harvesting weapon." The room went cold. Hours later, the Dauntless hovered at the edge of the Epsilon system, hidden behind a dead moon. Through the scope, the Phyrexian weapon shimmered like an artificial halo around the star, a ring of light too perfect, too deliberate. Raj exhaled slowly. "It's a stellar siphon. They're compressing plasma into a singularity cannon. If they fire that thing at Earth..." "They won't miss," Jinx finished grimly. Lyra didn't move. "How long do we have?" "Maybe 12 hours. Raj said. "Less if their containment holds." The silence that followed was almost reverent. 7 million had died in the first broadcast. This time, it would be everyone. Lyra gathered the crew in the mess hall. The air was thick with exhaustion and fear. "We've come too far to watch it end like this," she said. "Suggestions?" Raj rubbed his temples. "We can't outgun that weapon. But if we disrupt the energy channels feeding it, we might cause a backflow." "Meaning?" Zoe asked. "Meaning we make the sun punch back." Jinx whistled low. "A solar feedback loop. That's not sabotage, that's suicide." Raj didn't deny it. Zoe leaned forward. "If it saves Earth, it's not suicide. It's sacrifice." Lyra met her eyes. "No, not yet. We'll find a way to survive this. All of us." The plan unfolded in hurried fragments. Raj would reprogram the Dauntless core reactor into a signal amplifier. Jinx would infiltrate the Phyrexian data channels directly through the weapons network. Zoe would maintain communications with Earth, recording, documenting, ensuring that if humanity fell, the galaxy would know how they fought. As they prepared, tension filled the corridors. Every clang of metal, every hum of the reactor sounded like a countdown. Lyra checked on each of them in turn. She found Raj surrounded by tangled wires and sparks. "How's the amplifier?" she asked. "Held together by quantum tape and prayer." Raj said, "You sure about this, Captain?" "Absolutely not," she replied. He smiled faintly. "Good. Wouldn't trust a sure answer from a human anyway." In the communications bay, Zoe's voice drifted through the static. She was recording. "To anyone listening, this is Zoe Carter, Earth Unified Broadcast, aboard the Dauntless. We're about to face extinction, again. But we don't die quietly. If we fall, remember what we were: builders, dreamers, fools who made music out of math and fire out of fear. Lyra lingered at the doorway, watching her speak. The words were a kind of defiance no weapon could erase. When she reached the engineering deck, Jinx was already jacked into the alien interface. Thin strands of light crawling across her skin like luminous tattoos. "Connection stable," Jinx said, voice shaking slightly. "Once I'm inside, I can trigger a power surge in their conduit chain, but I'll need to stay linked." Lyra's gut twisted. "You mean you'll be part of the circuit?" Jinx smirked. "Guess I always wanted to be electric." "Jinx!" "Hey!" The hacker looked up, grin softening. "We started this by hijacking their broadcast, right? Maybe it's fitting I ended on air." Lyra wanted to argue, but there wasn't time. The Dauntless broke from cover, engines flaring as it dove toward the Phyrexian ring. Swarms of defense drones opened fire, filling the void with streaks of blue light. Shields at 20%. Rod shouted. Zoe's voice came through the comms, calm amid chaos. "Transmission stable. Earth is listening." Jinx's fingers danced across her console, feeding signal through the lattice. "Come on, come on." The ship shook violently. Warning lights screamed. Raj's display flashed red. Containment breach in the siphon. Feedback loop initiating. Lyra's voice cut through the noise. "All hands brace." The Phyrexian ring blazed like a newborn sun. Streams of plasma reversed course, tearing through the weapon's containment fields. The entire structure began to collapse inward, gravitational forces spiraling out of control. Jinx's voice flickered through static. "Captain, I think it's working. Their core is imploding." "Jinx, pull out." Lyra ordered. "No can do. The system's locked. But it's okay. Someone had to hit the send button." Lyra gritted her teeth. "You'll die." A laugh came through the comms. Tired, fearless. "Yeah, but think of the ratings." The connection went dead. The light consumed the Phyrexian weapon, then dimmed, leaving only silence and drifting embers. The Dauntless rocked from the aftershock, systems failing one by one. Raja's voice trembled. "We did it. The ring's gone. The sun's stable." Zoe's hand shook as she replayed the final transmission, a burst of static shaped like laughter. She really did it. Lyra closed her eyes. She saved everyone. They drifted in the quiet aftermath, engines offline, power dwindling. Outside, the wreckage of the Phyrexian construct formed a glowing arc across the horizon, a scar written in starlight. Zoe whispered, "Do you think they'll stop now?" Raj stared into the void. "They won't have a chance. That weapon was their last card. They burned their empire with it." Lyra stood slowly, straightening her jacket though it was covered in soot. "Then it's over. For them, at least." Zoe looked up. "And for us?" Lyra met her gaze. "We rebuild. Because that's what humans do." The comms console flickered once more, Earth signal breaking through the static. President Wren's voice, thick with emotion, filled the bridge. "We saw it all. The weapon, the light, everything. The whole planet was watching. You've done the impossible, Dauntless. Humanity owes you everything." Lyra's voice was calm but weary. "We didn't do it for debt. We did it so the galaxy remembers we don't vanish quietly." The Dauntless hung above the burning remains of the Phyrexian weapon, a lone survivor amid celestial ruin. Inside, the crew sat in silence, exhausted, grieving but alive. Zoe opened her notebook and began to write. Raj repaired the reactor one last time, humming softly to keep his hands steady. And Lyra watched the stars, her reflection framed by fire and shadow. "Transmission received," she whispered. The stars had never looked so still. For 3 days, the Dauntless drifted in silence, her engines dark, her crew suspended between exhaustion and disbelief. The war, if it could still be called that, was over. The Phyrexians had vanished from every known system. Their empire had collapsed not with triumph or surrender, but with silence. Captain Lyra Mendez stood on the observation deck, staring into the wreckage of what had been a godlike weapon. Its ruins drifted like glowing dust, orbiting a sun now free of its cage. Every few moments, a piece of metal caught the light, and for an instant, it looked almost beautiful. She thought of Jinx O'Malley, that impossible grin, that unshakable mischief, and the last thing she said, "Think of the ratings." Even now, the words felt like both a joke and a prayer. Dr. Raj Patel limped into the deck, his uniform singed, eyes heavy with sleepless nights. He carried a datapad covered in grime. "Engines are stable again. Barely. We'll have enough thrust to make it back to Earth. Eventually." Lyra nodded. "How's the crew?" "Alive," Raj said. "Physically. Spiritually." He gestured vaguely toward the ceiling. "Ask Zoe." As if summoned, Zoe Carter appeared, clutching her tablet. "I've compiled Jinx's last transmission into a memorial broadcast," she said quietly. "It's already circulating through the colony networks. People are calling it the laugh heard across the stars." Lyra's lips twitched into the faintest smile. She'd hate that. Zoe's eyes glistened. She'd also love it. They returned to Earth as heroes, though none of them felt like it. The Dauntless was met by fleets of drones, camera swarms, and a chorus of human voices that had waited, breathless, for proof that survival was more than rumor. The skies over Earth burned with color that night. Cities that had once been silent, under curfew, now blazed with fireworks. Humanity celebrated not the destruction of a foe, but the survival of its spirit. And yet, beneath the cheering, grief pulsed quietly. Millions of lights lit in memory of the 7 million who'd perished in the first broadcast. The Planetary Unity Council convened in the newly rebuilt Geneva Spire. Lyra, Raj, and Zoe stood before them. 3 figures who had turned a mining vessel into a legend. President Aisha Wren rose from her chair. "You have done what no civilization has ever achieved. The Threxian Dominion is gone. Their networks are silent, their fleets dismantled. You have secured the survival of our species and rewritten the balance of the galaxy." Raj shifted uneasily. "Madam President, with respect, we didn't rewrite the balance. We just reminded the universe that humans are really bad at giving up." A ripple of laughter moved through the chamber. Zoe stepped forward. "Madam President, we need to decide what comes next. Every broadcast, every network in the galaxy is listening. What we say now will define humanity's place among the stars." President Wren nodded. "Then speak, Miss Carter. You were our voice during the darkest hours. Be it again." Zoe took a deep breath. The entire room fell silent. "We are not conquerors," she said. "We don't seek dominion or vengeance. We seek to live, to create, to laugh, to endure. We built music out of static and hope out of ashes. We've been called chaotic, fragile, irrational, and maybe we are, but that's what saved us. Our imperfection is our strength." Her voice softened. "The Threxians tried to erase us on live broadcast. Instead, they made sure the whole galaxy would never forget us." The chamber erupted in applause. Weeks passed. The scars of war began to fade, replaced by something unexpected: unity. Former rival nations now shared resources, data, and art. Reconstruction projects spanned continents. And through it all, the legend of the Dauntless spread. Raj spent his days dismantling weapons and repurposing their energy cores into power grids. "If we can make destruction self-sustaining," he told reporters, "we can make peace the same way." Zoe founded the Memory Archive, a galactic broadcast hub that preserved every transmission, every laugh, every voice lost in the war. Her first entry was Jinx's final laugh, looped endlessly across the stars. And Lyra became Earth's first ambassador to the new Galactic Council. Her first meeting was on Astroprime, a neutral station rebuilt from Threxian ruins. Representatives from a dozen species attended, each watching humanity with the wary respect one reserves for a wildfire, beautiful, dangerous, and impossible to contain. The Valari Consul, a crystalline being of light, spoke first. "You have demonstrated unpredictability. It unnerves the galaxy. You should know that." Lyra smiled faintly. "Good. Fear keeps people honest." Another envoy leaned forward. "The Threxians underestimated you. Will you make the same mistake with US?" Lyra's expression softened. "No. Humanity doesn't want to rule anyone. We just want the freedom to exist, to build, to imagine, to fail spectacularly. That's who we are. The console tilted its head. And if we threaten that freedom? Lyra's gaze hardened, her voice quiet but unyielding. Then we'll adapt. And adaptation is the one weapon we never run out of. Back on Earth, the sky above the Atlantic shimmered with orbital lights, the new Unity network, a system built from Threxian salvage and human ingenuity. Its signal carried across galaxies, not as a warning, but as an introduction. Zoe's voice narrated the first transmission. This is Earth. We survived your broadcast. Now let's show you who we are. The feed cut to images of laughter, rebuilding, music, and children chasing drones through city streets. Humanity's triumph wasn't one of dominance. It was a continuance. That night, Lyra sat alone at the edge of the Unity spire, the wind carrying the hum of the new world below. Raj approached, a thermos in hand. You know, he said, sitting beside her, the engineers named a new drive after you, the Mendez reactor. Self-sustaining, adaptive, impossible to turn off. Lyra chuckled. Sounds like humanity. Raj nodded. You ever think about what Jinx would say if she saw this? She'd probably demand royalties, Lyra said. They both laughed softly. For a moment, the war felt distant, like a nightmare half forgotten. Zoe joined them, her tablet glowing in the dark. I finished it, she said. Finished what? Lyra asked. My poem. She sat cross-legged and began to read. We were broadcast to die, but our echo became a song. We burned, but we built, and our laughter outlived the silence. The words hung in the air, simple, human, eternal. As dawn broke over the horizon, the first new transmission of the Unity network began to pulse outward. Not a call for war, not a cry for vengeance, just a heartbeat. It spread across systems, across voids, across the empty places where the Threxians once ruled. A single rhythm, repeating endlessly. We are humanity. We break, we build, we laugh, we adapt, and we endure. Lyra watched the signal fade into the stars. Transmission received, she whispered.